Welcome, good morning from the Charlie Darwin studio. It is currently December 5th, I believe. Really hard to keep track this time of year. But I was kind of working on packing up some orders today, and I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna pop on that camera and bring you along with me. I'm getting hot, I'm getting toasty. I think I get toasty. When I'm talking to the camera, I get like a little bit hyped up, overwhelmed compared to just like talking to a normal person. I'm also sitting next to two really hot irons right now, so that is not helping me. Today, what we're gonna get into is, right now I'm gonna pack up and ship out some orders that I've gotten from my holiday hub. That's on my website. I have a bunch of like miscellaneous items I don't offer most times of the year. I normally sell plant-dyed linen clothing, but right now I have like plant-dyed linen scarves that are one of a kind and natural dye kits, more giftable things, gift cards, and I also just restocked my plant-dyed linen scrap bundles. And so these are just like offcuts from my linen clothing line. Really pretty earth tones, 100% medium weight linen, and people love to use them for like mending or stitching meditation or different craft projects. And so they're really popular when I have them in stock. And so I got to put a bunch of those together. I did get a good amount of orders from when I first launched the Holiday Hub a couple days ago. I need to pack up an order for 2 scarves for Kathy and a cotton scarf for Sally. And then I have 6 naturally dyed scrap fabric bundles. We got Catherine, Amy, Johanna, another Catherine spelled differently, and Leslie. So I'm gonna pack up a bunch of these. I still need to iron out some of the fabrics. I like to send them nice and like flat so you're not just getting junk in the mail. And yeah, I'm thinking I'm also gonna prep some for future orders that come in because pretty sure that they will. These usually sell out, especially over the course of like a month. So it's faster if I prep them all at once. So that's what I'm gonna dive into. All right, I'm going to start putting together. Basically, I have a ton already ironed here, but mostly of like my tea medium gray color. I have a big chunk of my dark gray from my chestnut, my tea brown down there, but I need to iron all of the rest of my colors out, and I'll probably cut some of these down. I like to always surprise and delight people by giving them a little bit bigger pieces. I say in the description, like, it'll be like at least 12 pieces assorted, at least bigger than the size of like the palm of your hand, because I feel like that's about the size you would need if you're going to do any kind of like quilty type of project. You need it to be at least this size to be able to cut a usable square out of it. But sometimes I send pieces that are much larger. I don't like to send too huge of pieces because that's just like giving away a little bit too much free inventory there. So sometimes if I have like a really big swatch, I'll cut it down into like 2 or 3 pieces. That way it can stretch between multiple people's fabric bundles. And then every once in a while I'll also throw in like just bonus scraps that are too little, because I'm like, well, I don't have much to do with these anyway. Maybe the person receiving it will want these, but it just won't count towards their 12. So that's the general mentality of what I have to be thinking about when I'm parsing up these kits. And I like to send ironed. Otherwise, a lot of times I will just have them in like these crunchy little, like they're all wrinkled up, and it feels like I'm just kind of like sending someone unusable garbage at that point. It just like, it looks more inspiring. You can kind of picture what you can do with it once it's ironed out flat. So yeah, I probably am like spending too much time on these for how low priced I have them at, but you know, it's all part of, I feel like the scraps and selling the scraps are a big part of my mission to help make my business more zero waste and really use every part, every resource that I go through without putting too much in the trash. So, and I know that naturally dyed fabric is very hard to come by. It is a hot commodity that you guys would want, and you wouldn't want me to throw it in the trash either. You're like, please put it in my hands so I can do something cool and creative with it. So I go through the steps, but I also don't want to charge too much for it because they're scraps at the end of the day, you know? You gotta keep it somewhat accessible. These are offcuts, but they're really freaking fancy offcuts. I should probably be sorting these by color. Maybe I'll start doing that. I feel generally very lucky that I work with linen. I mean, it's kind of by choice, but I've learned that a lot of people who work with textiles on a daily basis, like in garment manufacturing or factories, that a lot of the fibers can get in the air and get in your system. And while I'm sure it's not great to have a bunch of linen fibers in my airways either, at least it's linen. Like, at least I like to think, or I like to wonder, you know, is my body at least able to almost like biodegrade or like digest or whatever, assimilate the linen? Wouldn't that be interesting to find out that, like, how much linen am I consuming every day? You ever think about that? How much linen could I be actually like ingesting on a daily basis just from like working with it so much? When I pre-wash and dry the linen fabric before sewing garments with it, and then I come in here and I iron it, there is literally so much fuzz everywhere, like linen lint that gets on everything. It's just kind of like part of the game, you know. I vacuum a lot and that helps, but I wonder if part of my DNA is linen. That's not scientific. That's probably not how that works. Something I always assume that I shouldn't assume is that anyone watching this video has like seen all of my videos or has been following me forever. And I gotta remind myself that like this might be the first time you're seeing me in the whole world, or only like the 5th time or something. So something that I wanted to bring up, that if you have been following me forever, you probably already know about this. But if not, you're probably curious about like, what the heck are people doing with all of these stupid scraps? You're probably thinking, if you sew, you have a million scraps at home, and you're like, really? People want these? What are they doing with them? And one really cool thing, I didn't fully know either, to be fair. You know, I wanted to sell my scraps to people because I knew, well, plant-dyed fabric is a hot commodity. I bet someone will want these, you know, and I put them up on a website, and people did back in 2022. And that's how long I've been selling them for. It's a couple of years now. Someone tagged me. Her name was Freeman. She tagged me on her Instagram that she was using my scraps to make these meditative fabric books. And I'll pop up a picture on the screen. I had never seen anyone do anything like this before. I have seen embroidery, right? Like, I understand what embroidery is. That's like kind of structured, and you like make cute little flowers and leaves and embroidered names. But this is totally different. She was like doing like just kind of like real intuitive stitching all over, like in different patterns and circles and X's, and like just, it was really about adding texture to the fabric in a way that she described as being really meditative, really intuitive, and like just kind of an art form of color and texture is really what I saw it as. Her work was a bit abstract, but it also had a lot of meaning to her. Like, I think she was meditating on a lot of thoughts and emotions at the time of stitching into my fabric that I had sent her. She had gotten one of these scrap bundles, right? And so she had put them together into this little book situation. I don't remember if she was putting the pages together first or stitching first. I think maybe she was putting the pages together first, and she has these workshops on her website, by the way, if you want to follow along and see what this is all about. It's super fun. But basically, she'll take the different pieces of fabric, and because they are coming to her in like different weird wonky shapes, but she could also like cut them and trim them into the shape she wanted if she was, had an idea in mind. And she assembles the different fabrics together in a way that is sort of book-like, that you could open one page and find surprises on the next page. Open the next page. And sometimes she puts little pockets like inside of a page, like she'll sew on a little pocket, and that's a little perfect little forged stone that she found in there. And so this way it's sort of like unveiling itself as it goes, and I think practical wise it stays nice and small. A lot of us people who make stuff, you want to make stuff, and I especially felt this way as a painter, you end up with just like so much bulk. If you're making really big things, you're like, where am I going to put all this? I have nowhere to put this, or what am I going to do with this thing? So the book is like packing a lot of juicy, rich texture and art form into sort of a more compact piece, which I think just practically, I mean, I don't think she talks about that too much, but like to me, I thought that was a big draw to the concept. And to take this even further, if this is like, wow, how cool she's, to make a fabric book, that's already blowing your mind. Well, listen to this. When I saw her post and that she tagged me in, it wasn't just a fabric book. The book was super dirty. And I'm like, why is it so dirty? And basically, Emma has, before she even bought this Fabric Scraps and Me, like she had been doing this for a while with other found and gathered pieces of fabric, she's making these books and she's burying them underground. She was doing this a lot and sharing her progress with it on Instagram and through her workshops on her website. And basically the thought of burying, she tells her story the best. So I do encourage you to go over to her website, find the project, check out her YouTube channel and her Instagram. She's got great stuff. But just to give you the little teaser, she saw this process of, she had this hunch and this urge to just bury it one day, one of these books that she had made out in her yard, by a tree in her yard. And to see what happens is a little bit of experimental and a process kind of played into that meditative process of letting go. There's a lot of symbolism there of putting your work down into the earth for it to be, it is now unseen, but it is possibly going to be changing without you now. Because linen, and cotton a little bit, cotton goes a lot slower, but linen can biodegrade within 2 weeks. Sometimes it takes 8 weeks or more, just depends on your environmental conditions. Like, it doesn't biodegrade as fast if you have really dry soil, or it's really cold, or not enough rain. Biodegradation happens when there's really good worms and microbes. This is like your quick, fast lesson. Biodegradation happens when there's a lot of good worms, microbes, bacteria, and those are the things that are going to eat the fabric and then poop it out. And their poop is basically dirt, okay? So they're basically digesting it, and they're going to change and transform the fabric into dirt through digestion. And so that is the process, and linen is attractive and easy to digest by those worms and microbes and bacteria, all that stuff. And that's why it's a fantastic fabric for many reasons, but one of them is, you could actually cut up a linen dress into small pieces, put it in your compost, and it will just turn back into dirt pretty quickly. Relative, like polyester clothes takes like 1 billion years. That's an exaggeration, but it will take like hundreds to thousands of years to turn back into dirt. And that's why it's like clogging our landfills and sucks. So I got really off track here, but I think that was important to note that Emma was making her fabric books out of linen. And so when linen is buried, she had just put all of this beautiful handwork into making this really colorful and rich in texture piece of artwork that held a lot of meaning for her. And then she was letting it go by putting it underground. She was being open to transformation of those thoughts and feelings. Now that transformation is a little bit out of her control. And so she would bury the book for, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks and go back and dig it up. And that book will have changed. It will have discolored. parts of it are missing because they've actually been digested and turned back into the earth. And it's kind of this collaboration with the earth beings that live in our backyards that we don't ever think of, right? Like, how often are you thinking about the worms and microbes in your dirt? So pretty cool stuff. So after she had posted about the books in 2022, in 2023, I had the idea that I wanted to collaborate with her on a project. That ended up being my Shirt to Dirt project, which you can still find all the fun info about on my website. But that's where I invited anyone who wanted to join across the United States, that might be many of you who participated, to actually sew your own books. I sent out a bunch of my fabric scraps, and you could either sew your own meditative stitching book and bury it, or I would just send like little squares of my white fabric, and you could at least just do a basic experiment to see how long it took linen to biodegrade in your yard. So I did that project with Emma in 2023, and that went so well. That was so interesting to see all the differences. Like, people were writing in, sending pictures of their most beautiful hand-stitched books. You can check it out on my website. I have the full gallery of what everyone made under the tab Shirt to Dirt. And people are saying the most beautiful books that they had made, and also posting, you know, bi-weekly, showing how it was biodegrading over the course of 8 weeks. And you could see such crazy differences between people who were living in really dry climates, like the southwest of the United States that year was super dry and way too hot to have good conditions. And then like people in North Carolina, their books and their little squares just biodegraded within like 2 weeks, which is crazy. So that was really fun. Anyway, that's what that's my long roundabout way of saying that is what some people are using these fabric scraps for. And it might be something that you want to check out. I know Emma still has her workshops available on her website where you can learn and kind of follow along. I'd say it's more, she does teach, but it's also a lot of just like guidance on kind of like a eco art therapy of doing this type of meditative stitching on the naturally dyed linen fabric. So I'll link to that below, along with the Shirt to Dirt information if you're interested. And I'm gonna stop chatting for a while because I gotta really iron through this. Okay. All right, I think I've got everything ironed out. I'm going to start just piecing them together. Basically, I have to put 12 pieces of fabric per glob. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 6, 7, 8. 9. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 11. 3, 4, 6, 7, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. All right, I've got a good stack prepared to send out, and I made a few extras for any orders that trickle in the next couple days. I stopped, I would have prepped much more, but I ran out of my blue scraps, and I really like to have a mix of all the colors in there. So my next step is to start dyeing more scraps. I'm going to do these indigo blue, and I have even more scraps, so I might also re-up on some of these colors. Like, I'm now pretty low on the pink and brown, and I'll probably just throw them in on like the next dye batch that I do next time I'm doing a big load of like, you know, 10 yards of blue or brown or gray fabric. I just throw the scraps in with it so that it's like a little bit more efficient. Every once in a while though, I'll just do like a smaller pot and throw these in. I might do that too, actually, because I feel like I don't know the next time I'm going to do a big pot situation. So maybe I'll actually do a small pot with those. All right, I am ready to get everything packed up. to get shipped out. So one by one, something else I save. I don't save every single tiny scrap, I promise, but I save a lot, as you can already see. One type of scrap fabric that I do save is any piece that's long enough to become a ribbon for something, because obviously I'm packing a lot of orders. And having these is a great way to reuse. And oh my god, as I'm pulling these out, I can just see the freaking linen dust, like the linen fibers going into the air. And I'm just breathing it up, baby. So I'm really hoping that thing I said about linen, being easily digested in my body, hope that's true. Yeah, so for each little scrap bundle, I just like to take one of my ribbons, keep everything nice and cute. Sometimes if it's long enough, I can go around both ways, but ooh, this one might have been. Let's try that. Yeah, baby. Okay, why am I being dumb? And yeah, so cute. If you sew, you might consider keeping this type of scrap for your own stash, because I could see it being really nice also around the holidays or birthdays to gift with like this little earthy touch. If this is your style. Or maybe you sew with a totally different type of fabric and it's much more like bling and blang. Bling and blang. If it's much more bling and blang, whatever that means, than mine, and that's your style. Whatever is your style of fabric, I'm sure it could look kind of cool for wrapping gifts throughout the year. So you might consider saving your own little basket or even just like a Ziploc bag full of just so you know, I don't have these linen fabric scrap bundles in stock at all times because obviously I have like a limited supply of my little fabric scraps based on like how much I'm sewing and creating, and I kind of like to big stock of them build up so that I can make several at once. And so if you happen to catch my shop at a time where they're not in stock, click the button that says alert me when this is restocked. There's some button like that that you can click, and that way when I do put them back in stock, you'll be the first notified. You'll get like, it's not you joining my email list, it's just like you joining a list that says I want a notification when this is coming back. Of course, if you want more high-touch updates, I do send an email newsletter once a week with things like this. And so I, of course, invite you to join my email newsletter where I give a lot more like behind the scenes and updates and sales for my shop. It's a cute little place to be. I send an email about once a week, once every 2 weeks, and it's a great way to stay in touch. If you'd like to join there, I'll link in the description below. All right, now I'm ready to get them into my brown mailer envelopes and do the rest of the packaging. So I got all my little brown envelopes on there with my little hummingbird stamp, if you can see it from that far away. And these are just ready to get put with their packing slip, a thank you note, business card, and put away into a little envelope mailer. In case you've never purchased from me before and you're curious how I ship my items, like in what format, I guess, there's two different ways that I try and be super eco-friendly about it. One of them is my first line of attack is to reuse mailers that have been given to me by my community that they got from wherever else. So I collect like from my friends and family all of their Amazon Prime mailers. I know it's like you kind of wish we weren't all buying so much stuff from Amazon Prime. That's what I'm trying to do with Charlie Darwin, is create more natural homemade goods that are lovely, but you know, there's lots of us and lots of people in our lives who are ordering tons of crap online, myself included. Sometimes I am not like an elitist here, but I have a lot of these mailers collected that are perfect to reuse. They're in perfectly great condition. I just smack a new mailing label on top and seal it up with good packing tape and it's good to go. I usually put a sticker on there that just says, you know, we proudly reuse packaging materials to reduce waste type of thing. So people aren't so confused when they get an Amazon Prime mailer from Charlie Darwin Textiles, because that is kind of weird, I know. And then second line of defense, offense, I don't know, for my mailing is if I'm out of mailers that have been donated to me to reuse, then I go for reusing brown paper bags from the grocery. So we do grocery pickup, and they often, like from Aldi, they give us our groceries in brown paper bags, which are perfect for being biodegradable mailers. I'll kind of show you real quick how I do that, because I know you're thinking brown paper sack. That makes no sense, Leah. That's a rectangle. So you open it up, you have your brown paper sack, right? It's like a big floppy rectangle. Doesn't seem like it would be that great. But I'll show you real quick. What I do is I kind of bring those creases down. Sorry if this is super crinkly in my microphone, by the way. Especially for something flat like a garment, I can just, like a garment or these little fabric bundles, I don't need this really puffed up. It can actually stay pretty flat like a regular mailer would be. Okay, well, my microphone died, so it's me from the future, and what I am trying to say here is basically I just am taking my little inner package and I put it inside of the brown paper sack on that long unfolded half of it, and then that upper folded part can just lay nice and flat on top. Then I go ahead and I tuck in my packing slip and my little handwritten thank you note. And then if I'm really lucky, I can fold that open half of the package down, and it'll either meet up with or overlap with that bottom flap there. So I only have to use one piece of tape, which is bomb. Sometimes I have to use 2 pieces of tape, but you know, do my best. The tape I'm using is from U-Haul, actually. It's like a moving box tape. I love it because it's brown, so it matches the brown bags, and it's super sticky, works great, and it's not super expensive. Then I just make sure I have long flaps of it to flip over to the front and make sure everything is nice and secure. And then voila, it's beautiful, it's biodegradable, and I can just smack my shipping label right on the front. All right, sorry we had to end on such a tech flop here with the no mic. My outro also didn't end up recording, so here I am from the depths of the future saying hello and goodbye. I look forward to seeing you in my next video and over on my email newsletter. I hope you have such a good week this week. Do something nice for yourself. I love ya, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.